we know that these entities are going to have attributes. That is, we already have seen it, right? Like for example, employee can have employee ID, employee name, and maybe salary, age, date of birth, something like this, right? And we also know that every entity like department will also have some attributes like department number, department name, right? So there is no entity without any attributes. We don't find any such entities at all. Similar to the entities, even the relationships can also have some attributes. In this case, let us say an employee is going to work for a department, right? Now there is a relationship. To this relationship, I can add an attribute. Let us say the attribute added is, see, these ovals are nothing but the attributes, and there are various types of attributes. We shall discuss about what kind of notations we are going to give for each attribute, like composite and simple, multi-value, like this. Let us say one simple attribute I want to attach to this works for relation, which is start date. Start date, which means I want to even record, see, this employee, some particular employee is going to work for some particular department, then what is the day on which he started working for it, that is called as start date. Now if I am going to add that attribute to the relationship, then I'll really think about it as a designer, as a schema designer. Schema designer means I'm going to design this, right? So as a designer, I have to think about, should I really attach an attribute to the relationship or can I avoid it? Which means, can I attach this attribute instead of this relationship to any of the entities? It turns out that sometimes it is possible that even if a relationship is having an attribute, we can happily shift this. Why happily? Because we don't want to attach any more attributes to the relationship. It is going to complicate many things later on. I'll show you later when we go to the relational model. What I mean to say is, we want to have as less attributes to the relationship as possible, right? And we try to avoid it whenever it is possible. So what I am trying to do is, I want to give this attribute start date instead of to this relationship. I want to give it to either employee or the department. Got it? Now which way should I give it? Where should I give it? Which way will it be meaningful? Now it is one-to-n relationship is there. It is n side and that is one side, right? Generally it is convenient to give that relation to the attribute, this whatever is attribute is present. It is convenient if you can give this particular attribute to the n side. The reason is, in a many-to-one relationship, what happens is, every employee will be having participation in there, like this. See, what I mean to say is, an employee will be participating, see, E1, E2, E3, E4, right? Therefore an employee may be participating like this, right? So many employees may be going to the same department, right? Now giving this attribute to the employee side is beneficial because every employee can have a starting date attached to that particular entity without any problem. But if I have to put the starting date here, it is going to be a multi-valued attribute there, which means for every employee I might have to add a start date, and which employee which date, it is going to be really confusing. So here if I put it, if I put the attribute this side, it is going to be easy to identify it. Got it? So in case of many-to-one relationship, right, which means like this, n and 1, it is better that whichever side you have n in ER diagram, you put the attribute that side. It is easy and convenient that way. Got it? So anyway, whether you want to leave it here or you want to shift this attribute to the n side, it is all up to you. As a designer, you have the freedom, and if you ever want to change it, if you ever want to move it, you have to move it only to this side. That side is not possible. Got it? In case of 1-to-n, right? In case of, let us say, an employee and then managers, right? This is manager, right? So in this one also, if you want to have an attribute like start date, which means what is the date from which this employee started managing this particular department, right? Then also you can have this attribute, and if you wish to move it on to one of them, you can either move to this side or this side, which means in case of one-to-one relationship, the reason is like this. if there is a department and if there is an employee, you will have only one-to-one relationship, right? Therefore, every employee will be having only one department he is managing. So either you put this start date here or you put this start date here, you can derive the information easily, right? So in case of one-to-one relationships, it is better that you have the liberty. Either you can choose to move it here or there. If only if you have already decided to move it. Otherwise, if you want to leave it there, you can anyway leave it there, right? But many people will try to move it to the entities, because entities having relationship attributes is meaningful rather than this relationships having it. Okay. And in case of this many to many, which means this is many to many relationship, isn't it? An employee is working for a project, right? So in this case, assume that there is a attribute, and the attribute is hours, number of hours a particular employee has worked on a particular project. Now such an attribute, it is difficult to move either here or here. The reason is you cannot record the information that way. This particular attribute is actually depending on two values. One is an employee as well as project simultaneously. You cannot decide about the hours only depending on the employee, or you cannot decide about the hours only depending on the project, because what I wanted to write here is the number of hours an employee is working on a particular project, and there are various employees working on a project, and for a project there will be various employees like this. See, what I mean to say is, if there is employees here and there is projects here, the problem is this: there will be many to many relationship. An employee may be working for many projects like this, as well as a project might be having many employees, right? Now what I wanted to record is how many hours a particular employee has worked on a particular project. Now if I put that information here, right, it just that information is not, one information is not going to be enough, because this particular employee is working on many projects. So I might have to put many number of hours, and it is not possible there. And moreover, I cannot put number of hours on the project side, because each project is having many employees. So if I put some hours here, it might correspond to employee 1 or employee 2 or employee 3. What I wanted is, for every employee, for every project, how many hours did this employee work on that project, for every employee and project. Then it is going to be a difficult thing. So I cannot reflect it either here or here, because this particular attribute is depending on both employee and project. So putting this either here or here is not feasible at all. So in this case, definitely you have to have attributes with the relationships. Here in these two cases, you might avoid it somehow, right? See, why does it make sense to put the start date this side is, there is only one employee. Employee is participating in only one relationship. Therefore, if you add that value, definitely that indicates that this particular employee starting date is this. You need not talk about this particular employee and this department, the starting date. Why? For every employee there is only one department. Therefore, saying that this particular employee has started at this date is also saying that this particular employee has started at this date for that project, for that department, right? And here also, if you have a manager and then this employee and department having either information this side or that side is meaningful, because every employee is managing only one department. Therefore, saying that he started so and so time is enough, right? Because that particular information is going to say which department he is working for, he is managing, because there is only one department. But here, if you try to move the number of hours this side, then what happens is, if you are saying that some particular employee is working for these many, has worked for these many hours, then it doesn't make sense, because that particular employee is working for many projects. Then you might ask again, yes, you are saying the number of hours, which project is it? We cannot derive that, because each employee is working for many projects. And now if you try to put that information in the project side, then what happens is, you will get the information that this particular project has been worked on for these many hours, but then you will not get the information about who worked on this, and you cannot derive it also, because for a given project there are many employees. You cannot say who is that. So this is a very peculiar case in which you have to definitely have the attribute attached to the relationship itself. You cannot migrate it either to this side or that side. Understood this? Okay, so this is how attributes are attached to the relationships as well.